Welcome to Hotline Weekend, your ultimate weekend getaway for nonstop excitement and entertainment. Join us every week as we bring you Metro News Hotline's most popular features, engaging interviews, and thrilling games. Kick back, relax, and relive the highlights of our most talked about segments. Hotline Weekend, your ultimate dose of fun and unforgettable moments.
All right, let me get Jeremy Stout from Select Cards and Collectibles in South Charleston on with us, because, Jeremy, first of all, how you doing today?
Good, Dave. How are you?
I have got so much stuff to talk to you about today. There is so much stuff happening. So yesterday we got the word that the NFL Players Association has terminated their trading card agreement with Panini, giving exclusive rights to Fanatics. What's that mean for collectors? What does this deal mean?
I mean, we're all really still trying to wait and find out. You know, Fanatics had won the bidding war for the licensing anyways, but it wasn't going to go to effect until 2026. So this letter yesterday now says that it's effective immediately. So Panini is saying that the three products they already had produced and ready to go will be released, but after that, there might not be any more Panini NFL products. So I don't know if Fanatics is ready to start printing cards immediately, or if we're going to have time where no football cards are made this year. I don't really know what's going to happen.
So doesn't Panini have deals with certain individual players? I mean, are those deals will go on, right?
Well, they will for now, but the Players Association said they were going to encourage athletes who did have contracts with Panini to fulfill them, but not to extend them.
Okay.
So that's really, I guess, going to be up to the agents and the players who have deals with Panini. But there's not that many athletes that have exclusives with Panini. You know, we're not talking about Panini just being able to make the cards of these people. We're talking about them having exclusives. Like we were already seeing Bryce Young and a couple of the big quarterbacks signed exclusives with Fanatics. So
okay.
They were not going to have autographs in any Panini products coming out anyway. So it's going to be a crazy, I think.
So Fanatics essentially is basically taken over from from jerseys to trading cards. Is this good for collectors?
I don't know that it's good for it. I mean, they're pretty much creating a monopoly is what they're wanting to do. They're wanting to be the only place people can break. They're wanting to, we've read rumors where they're trying to close up local shops and open up their own little pop-up Fanatic stores in malls and places like that. Unless you can sign up and get to be a breaker for them. But then they're going to regulate everything. It's going to be on their platform. Things are definitely changing in the card market, that's for sure. With Fanatics, they're trying to now control and regulate everything.
Oh, man, I have so much to talk about with you in this particular segment. But one of the things I saw on Facebook that you posted was that you have acquired the Ashland Oil Marshall basketball card series that has Cam Henderson in it, and it has Charlie Slack in it too, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, tell me a little bit about the collection.
Okay, well, the set was made for Ashland Oil in the 50s, I think 1955. There's the 12 Marshall cards, there's 12 WVU cards, there's 12 University of Kentucky, and there's 12 Eastern Kentucky. So there's 48 total. There's two different backs. There's the Ashland Oil back, and then there's the Aetna Oil back. And, what happened was it was a strip card that hung on a peg, and when you bought a tank of gas, they tore off one of the cards. They were perforated. So one of the cards were torn off, given to you for a tank of gas. So supposedly Marshall is the hardest ones to come by. But like I said, Ashland Oil is not as scarce as the Aetna Oils are. The Aetna Oil backs are a little bit harder to come by. But just to find the set from 55 with the Marshall or WVU is pretty rare. Yeah,
I was going to ask you, how rare is it to collect all 48?
I know a few people that have been trying to collect the Marshall and WVU, and I think they're the hardest. With Ashland, well, with them starting over in Kentucky, there was a lot more. You can find a lot of the Eastern Kentucky ones. They're not too hard to find. University of Kentucky, outside of Adolph Rupp, is a little bit tough to find, but you just don't see the WVU and the Marshall ones that often.
So what happens? First of all, how did you acquire it?
A gentleman brought him in. If the story's correct, if I can remember correctly, he was from Glenville. His dad had a grocery store, I believe he said, up there. A friend of his had a gas station. He gave him the WVU set and a Marshall set. The WVU set, one of the guys who was in it recently passed away, who was from the Glenville area. So he went to the funeral, gave the WVU set to the gentleman's son to keep. So that's where the WVU set went. He still had the Marshall set in an envelope, and he brought him here.
You know, this is a great example of a regional collection that may have, well, let me ask you, you probably know more about this than I do. As a regional collection, this is more valuable, obviously, in our area than it is nationally, correct?
I think right now it is. About 10 years ago, Beckett ran an article on this Ashland Oil Etna oil set, and they really took a jump in popularity. People who didn't know who they were, didn't know what they were, started to look for them. With them being just regionally, you know, people who were collecting, you know, Jerry West has a WV one. So people who were collecting Lakers cards and Jerry West cards from out west started to look for them. So the demand goes up. As the years have went past since then, you don't hear about them that often anymore. Like I never have anybody ask them for them, like nationally at the Nationals or anything like that anymore. But there's still a lot of people local who collect the Marshall set and collect the WVU set. They just don't come up that often, even individually. So, you know, there's a pretty good market for it. I mean, it's not, you know, they're not impossible to find. They're not crazy high prices, but you know, they're pretty reasonably priced. And to be honest, I don't know that I even want to get rid of it. I still have it. So it might just go to the house and stay there.
There you go. So approximately a complete set, what's the value?
I mean, I think they're around $1,000 for the Marshall set, maybe $800 to $1,000. You know, but for 12 cards, that's a pretty good price.
Well, let me ask you also.
They're not crazy high.
Let me ask you about Wander Franco. So Franco's been placed on administrative leave until further notice. That came out today. The MLB and the MLB Players Association came to an agreement, according to a release from Major League Baseball. What is your advice to people who have invested in Wander Franco?
I mean, at this point, if you invested in him, you probably overpaid. So, I mean, I think just hold on to him at this point and try to see what happens. Like, I didn't see today's news, but everyone's still trying to figure out, is it going to be done for good? Is it going to be, you know, suspended for the rest of the season? What's going to happen with it? So everyone right now is dumping his stuff. If you got into it high, I would say hold it, see what happens. It's not going to go down any more than it is now probably. And, you know, there's a chance maybe he comes back. We're only really hearing one side of the story. So, you know, more facts might come out. Things may change. He may end up playing. I know it's not looking good. But, you know, you never know. If you're into him pretty good at this point, you might as well ride it out and see if he comes back and plays.
So, you know.
But I wouldn't recommend buying anything of him.
Okay. But, I mean, you're my guy when it comes to, like, NBA cards. Kobe went through this, okay? Kobe, a lot of his stuff got devalued when there were charges against him, and his market completely recovered.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit different when we're talking about kids. I mean, you know, Kobe's thing was a rape charge, who, you know, he said was consensual all along. So there was a little dip in the market, but at the end of the day, it was cleared and everything was fine. But now with Wonder, we're talking about a minor being involved. True. Whether her family was okay with it. You know, I was seeing the other day where he was paying the family all along, and this didn't really come out and be a fuss until he stopped making payments to the family. So, we don't know the whole story. It happened in, what was he from, the Dominican Republic, so it didn't happen here in the States. So laws are different. Society's a little bit different there. So I don't know. I'm anxious to see how it plays out. It sure doesn't look good for you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hey, Jeremy, great stuff today, as always. I'll talk to you next month. Have a good one.
This is Hotline Weekend. Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin.
Hey, man, Dave Bryan from Steeler Depot. He doesn't want to talk about center fielding playing brothers. He's got a whole bunch on his plate right now. Dave, how you doing?
Hey, Dave, I'm doing great. I'd like to talk about backup centers, not center fielders.
Yeah, I know. Hey, let me ask you this. So the Steelers play the Falcons on Thursday night, and that'll wrap up the preseason for them. How many starters do you think are going to play in that game, and how long will they play?
I think on the offensive side of the football, you'll see that starting unit for, if things go well, just probably one series. Mike Tomlin, you know how Mike Tomlin is in these press conferences. He lays just enough out there to make you think that you know what's going on, and then you get to the game day and things change a little bit there. But once again, he says all healthy starters will play. He's not going to guarantee though that every player will play. But I think on the defensive side of football, when he started talking about some of the all-pros like Minka and Patrick Peterson and Watt and Hayward, it didn't sound like he's all that much interested in seeing what those guys have to offer, because he knows what they have to offer there. So on the defensive side of football, don't be surprised if some of those main guys, those veteran guys, don't play at all, or if they do only 2 or 3 snaps, something like that. Now on the offensive side of football, being as you really have kind of still a young unit, and look, that offensive unit's played like what, 17 snaps?
Yeah.
In total. Now it's been some high quality 17 snaps, but you would think that they'd want to get in. Look, I think the best ideal situation here is for the Steelers' first string offense to get like a 10-play opening drive and punch that thing in the end zone and then call it a day. So I would look for the starters to play on offense at least one series, and hopefully that's 7, 8, 9, 10 plays, something like that.
Yeah, Jaylen Warren will mess this all up with that race to the house against the Bills. If he had just maybe gone down after a 5-yard gain instead of taking it to the end zone. To me, that's the play of the preseason to this point.
Yeah, that touchdown pass down the left side to Calvin Austin. I mean, look, you got 4 explosive plays so far in this preseason, and several 4 touchdowns on top of. Boy, we were missing that as Steeler fans last year with the explosive play category. Yeah, you're right. Too bad Jaylen didn't run like 56 yards to give him some red zone work or something like that. Look, I mean it. There's no other way to chop this thing up right now when you talk about the Steelers offense. I mean, it's been impressive, and it's caused kind of a ripple effect across the national media landscape where everybody's saying, look out for the Steelers now at this point. But I mean, it is preseason, and it is a small sample size. But I mean, even the play of Kenny Pickett so far, Dave, I mean,
perfect.
It's hard to find any fault with it. He's moving up in the pocket. He's throwing to the middle of the field. We're seeing a couple of slants mixed in on top of it. He spread the football around to all the eligibles. So going into this final preseason game, there's not a lot not to like at this point.
Yeah, you're right about that. Okay, a couple of things about the offense, and we'll move on to other stuff. So how many carries do you think that Warren is going to take away from Najee? I mean, he's got to play, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think you got to get him on the field a little bit more than you did last year. But make no mistake about it, Najee's going to be this team's lead running back here. Though I think you could see Jaylen Warren be a primary kind of third down and long type back, especially because really, if you want to be honest with you, I think Jaylen Warren's a better pass protector than Najee is. Najee's not bad, but I think Jaylen has got a good grasp of what's going on. I just think technically he's a more sound in that category. Both Najee and Jaylen catch the football well out of the backfield. So I would expect an uptick in Jaylen Warren's playing time this year. And look, do you really need Najee Harris to have 370 touches during the season? I don't think so. I think you want to kind of take it easy on him. And look, if you have a fresh Najee later in the game in some close ball games, or maybe you're winning and need one of those 6-minute drives to kill the clock, you want a fresh Najee out there to wear down what's left of the defense at that time. So yes, I think Warren gets more playing time, but I don't think it's going to be as much as what some of the fan base seems to be arguing about right now.
And there's only one more preseason game to go, but in your mind, has Broderick Jones done enough to earn that left tackle spot ahead of Dan Moore?
I don't think it's more so about what Broderick Jones has or hasn't done. It's just that Dan Moore's been representing himself well up until this point. And you come out of that gauntlet there with some good edge rushers, Bosa and Jarett and Crosby with the Raiders. Do you really want to throw the rookie into the fire like that? And, Mike Tomlin was kind of asked, what has Dan Moore done to hold off Broderick Jones to this point? And Mike almost took a little bit of an offense today. He says, look, it's not about holding anybody off. I mean, you're dealing with a guy in Dan Moore who's, played over 1,000 snaps these last 2 seasons, and he's experienced, and he's made some improvements. Now, within that, from where we sit right now, barring injury, I think Dan Moore opens up week 1 as the starter. But with that said, it's up to him to keep that job. And I think at some point during the 2023 season, Broderick Jones will be the starter at left tackle there. And as I always tell my co-host on the podcast, Alex Kozora, these things have a weird way of sometimes just working themselves out naturally, being injury or what have you. But I expect Moore to open the season at least at left tackle.
It's just the preseason. By the way, I totally agree with what you said. These things do have a way of working themselves out. There's one more preseason game to go, and then we get into the regular season. But what we've seen in the first 2 games, Nick Herbig has got to play. He has got to play. I mean, first of all, I thought maybe it was the matchups he was getting in that first preseason game, but he was dominant when he was on the field against the Bills. He is going to help us this year.
Dave, it just goes for you. I watch a lot of tape and follow the draft and follow the Steelers and all, and just goes to show you, nobody's right all the time. I had a little bit of I liked Nick Herbig coming out of college in Wisconsin. I thought his get off and ability to apply pressure to the quarterback was good in there. I was part of that group that worried about his overall measurables and the length, because statistically, historically, those things just don't normally work out that well. But I have seen the light, Dave. Can I get an amen? I have been converted here. At this point right now, you have to figure out a way through him. And look, Marcus Golden has been good during the preseason as well, too. And when's the last time we talked about an outside linebacker room that's had this much depth for the Steelers? And this gives you the ability to get T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith off the field a couple of times during the game. And I think there are situations in games when you are going through this rotation where you can get Nick Herbig on the field in some pass rush situations there. He looked really, really good against the Bills the other night. And I think you're going to get a good look at him against the Falcons on Thursday night, and specifically that right tackle of theirs, that Matthew Bergeron, I think Syracuse product there. That ought to be a matchup that Nick Herbig does well. So, yes, he will get some playing time in 2023. It might not be as much as what a lot of people want, but I think he will get on the field.
Hey, you got about 60 seconds, but I did want to get your reaction to this. I mean, cuts are coming, obviously. Were you surprised that the Steelers got rid of Akeem Butler so quickly from Iowa State? I really thought that he was a pretty good college player, and he was one of the first guys to get cut.
Well, that is injury related now. He was waived as injured, and he should clear waivers here in about the next hour and then revert to the Steelers IR, and then we'll see what happens with an injury settlement from there. But he is who we thought he was, coming into camp, a guy that, struggled with consistency. He dropped a lot of footballs during training camp and all like that. A big guy could make big plays occasionally, but that's, the knock has been on him as just being a consistent player, and especially when it comes to catching the football. And evidently he got injured, I guess, right before that game last week, because he didn't play any snaps, I don't think, in this last preseason game. So I think it was due to injury. Him and Cody White were the two wide receivers that got waived injured yesterday, and they'll clear waivers today and then revert to IR.
All right, got to leave it there. Dave, enjoy the game on Thursday with the Falcons in Atlanta. We'll talk more Steeler football next Tuesday at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. Have a good week.
Metro News Hotline, weekdays from 3 until 6. Syndicated over the air and online at wvmetronews.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. 26 minutes till the hour. Today is going to be the first of 4 straight days where we give away tickets to go see Lana Del Rey. She will be performing at the Charleston Coliseum and Convention Center on October the 5th. Now, public sales of the tickets don't start until Friday at 10 a.m. But apparently Coop's got a guy. So we can get you the ducats.
I would be interesting on how many talk radio shows has Lana Del Rey tickets they're giving away.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Yeah, your network talk show of the year power coming through here for you folks.
Yeah, there you go. Lana Del Rey, known for her albums like Ultraviolence and Lust for Life, coming to the Charleston Coliseum and Convention Center. That'll be on October the 5th. Did you know that Lana Del Rey is not her real name?
I did.
Okay.
Did you know that she worked at a Waffle House a couple months ago?
That I believe.
She did.
I believe.
She was there and then put on the uniform and served some folks.
There you go. All right, so let's get our first contestant / victim on the air. This is Adam from Pittsburgh. Adam, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. So how did you hear about this contest? How did you get connected to Coop?
My friend saw about it on Twitter, so he sent me a link over and said, you should enter it, see if you can get tickets.
There you go.
And here I am, competing for tickets now.
Yep, you are. This is the Hotline Too Easy to Fail contest for Lana Del Rey tickets. Coop, by the way, how do our listeners get involved for other Lana Del Rey ticket giveaways that'll be the rest of the week?
You can go to WCHSnetwork.com/tickets, and that will take you directly to the registration page. All you have to do is put in, you have to be 18 years old, 18 or older to win, and you have to provide a phone number so I can call you. So the second page will give you name, phone number that you can put in, and you get entered into that. There's a couple of things that you can do to get some extra entries, so you can like our page, you can subscribe to our podcast, things like that. You'll get some extra entries for that. Then I hit a button for a random entry each day. I'll call that person, just like I did Adam today, arrange for them to come on the air to do this very difficult quiz.
All right, and by the way, we'll give those give those outlines again before we wrap up this segment. So, Adam, what part of Pittsburgh are you in?
I am in the South Hills, right outside of the city.
Nice. What do you do up there?
I work as a research coordinator for the university.
Oh, okay.
So medical research.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Are you ready for the Hotline Too Easy to Fail quiz for these Lana Del Rey tickets?
I am totally ready. Let's go.
All right. Question number 1. Do you find the title of Alanis Morissette's song ironic to be ironic?
Well, I think that's a question in irony itself. It would depend on how you look at the definition of irony. So me, myself, I would find it to be unironic because it's almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Descriptive of itself. So that's not irony. That's just telling straight facts.
Adam, that is correct. Yes, that is correct. You're 1/3 of the way home.
And remember, you cannot phone a friend. There are no lifelines. You must get all 3 questions correct.
Hotlines Too Easy to Fail Lana Del Rey tickets. Questions for Adam, our contestant / victim in Pittsburgh, continues now with question number 2. Adam, if you had to choose, would you rather be 5 inches taller or 5 inches shorter?
I think I would much rather be 5 inches taller. I think I would have a terrible time finding pants that fit if I was about 5'6" or so. So I think for the sake of clothing, 5 inches taller.
All right. For us to gauge whether you're correct with this question response, what is your current height?
It's 5'11".
5'11". So, Coop, again, he's 2/3 of the way home. That answer is correct.
Don't forget, we've never failed to give away
perfect.
tickets on Tickets Tuesday.
Tickets Tuesday, our percentage of giving away prizes is 100%. Here we go. Third and final question for you, Adam, if that's your real name. Have you ever been to space? Have you ever been to space, Adam, for the Lana Del Rey tickets?
I have not been given the opportunity to go to space, so the answer is no, but I'm always willing to change that answer.
There you go.
There we go.
3 for 3. You are the first, and at this point, potentially only member of the Hotline Too Easy to Fail quiz winner circle.
Adam, do you think we scared off other potential contestants that they won't want to participate in this difficult quiz?
I think that's very likely. My heart was racing the whole time.
I'm concerned about that, Adam, but we appreciate you playing along. And, man, you did a fantastic job. I was a little worried I made him too hard.
Adam, who are you going to take to the concert?
My friend who told me about the giveaway.
Ah, nice.
That works.
The only right answer.
Nice.
That's great.
Nice. So there you go. Coop, you've hooked him up with the tickets?
I've got all the information we need. Adam, congratulations. You won 2 tickets to see Lana Del Rey in Charleston on October 5th. And as soon as we get those tickets from Live Nation, I'll get a hold of you and we'll arrange delivery.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, Adam in
And we
Pittsburgh.
appreciate it.
Our winner. Coop, can I hear the theme just one more time? I really like that. It's either, now that when I hear this, I'm going to need something.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to need some Lana Del Rey tickets.
Yeah, and then there's there's always the high drama that comes before it.
Oh yeah,
We could get a little dramatic there too.
You know what? That sound that like
the drama sound.
Yeah, I kind of expect Robert Stack and Unsolved Mystery. That kind of thing.
Yeah, you never know.
It's a strong one. So Lana Del Rey has had 2 songs in a top 10 Billboard Hot 100 chart. Summertime Sadness and Snow on the Beach.
Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin. This is Hotline Weekend.
Jeff Erickson from RotoWire joins us on what I'm guessing is probably one of the biggest weeks of the year for you, Jeff. A lot of fantasy draft talk this week. A lot of fantasy drafts taking place.
Indeed. This week and next week, I think, are the vast majority of the drafts. You can see it already in the tick-up in our coverage, our social media responses, things of that nature. It's really kind of picked up, Dave, and, yeah, I'm loving it. It's a whirlwind time for me. In fact, I'm going to Vegas to do a couple broadcasts to promote an event, and then I'm going the following weekend to Vegas for an actual draft. So it's a wild time.
So news in the preseason, things that have happened in the preseason, how much does that really impact what you do in a draft?
Very little in the preseason games, except for an injury, obviously. But I think for the most part, preseason games are revealing less and less than they ever have before. So many teams are holding out their starters, keeping very vanilla game plans. You'll see a rookie that looks really eye-opening to you, and that's great. That maybe it helps them win a spot. Sometimes it even indicates they might use them a little bit more. Someone like Tank Bigsby on Jacksonville. But for the most part, we're looking at injuries, and then, of course, the news of like Jonathan Taylor. That's something that really moves the needle. We're seeing him drop quite a bit right now.
All right. I want to get to that in a minute, but, I mean, you brought it up, injuries in the preseason. For example, the sprained toe that Terry McLaurin got from the Commanders in the game the other night against the Ravens. How's that affecting his draft? What do you think about him? Is that something to be concerned about if you want to draft him?
Right now the reports suggest it's only a pretty minor, might keep him out a week. Toe injuries do have a tendency to linger. Most injuries have a tendency to linger. That's kind of the dirty little secret. I will move him down a couple of notches probably. I always thought he was kind of a steady, safe guy you could draft, and that doesn't really change. I mean, except unless this injury is a little bit longer based. I'd say running backs, injuries are always a concern of ours. With receivers, usually there's a little bit more stability involved. So we'll be watching this one pretty closely.
Smith and Jigba, the Seattle Seahawks, got hurt the other night. He needs surgery in his wrist. They're reporting that he'll be back in time for the season opening game for Seattle. But what about his draft status?
Oh, I think my guess is you'll see him miss a game or two, but rookies need as many reps as they can too. I think that's one of the things that I get a little worried about. That one will move the needle. I'll put him below other rookies like Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers right now. I think I go Quentin Johnston over him as well, just because they're ready to play right now.
So what do you think? You brought him up, Jonathan Taylor of the Colts. You know, his status for the season is unclear, who he's going to play for. What's the draft strategy for Jonathan Taylor if you have a draft tonight?
I'm pushing him down. I would say at least third round and maybe even the fourth round for me. I'm hoping somebody else makes that decision for me. I know it's kind of a Chicken Little approach, but I don't see a positive resolution in Indy. I think between he and Jim Irsay, that relationship is kind of broken. I think it's irreconcilable differences.
What about somebody like Austin Eckler of the Chargers? Kellen Moore, is now the OC of the Chargers. Do you see him getting as many touches? I mean, Moore's the kind of OC who wants to throw the ball down the field. Keller got so many short passes. He got so many targets last year. Do you think that Keller's fantasy value is going to be hurt by more running the offense with the Chargers?
I think they might rest Eckler a little bit more than they otherwise did, maybe a little bit more often. I think they, like you said, they do want to take some more shots downfield than they did last year. And that was also kind of a function of personnel, though, last year. Not just from wide receivers, although that didn't help, like especially when Mike Williams got hurt. But also, their offensive line got decimated last year by injury, so they didn't give Herbert as much time to protect him to be able to find those deep reads. So I think some of it's circumstance and some of it's coordinator. I think, Eckler's still going to get his. I still think he's a pretty safe first-round pick.
Let's talk a little bit about quarterbacks. Where do you have Kenny Pickett?
Around 20 among quarterbacks. Probably, I think he'll be better than last year, but I still don't see, the reins completely taken off. The fact is, the offensive coordinator hasn't changed. And that's one of the things that I think we need to see before we actually expect any sort of big wide openings in that Steelers offense.
I want to ask you also about Geno Smith. Geno Smith had a great year last year, comeback player of the year, but Seattle and Smith particularly feasted on the NFC South. Games against the Falcons, the Saints, and Carolina. They're not getting those games this year. Last year he was perfect. Last year he was perfect in the red zone. In the red zone, 17 TDs, no interceptions. He's going to have to regress a little bit, right? Where do you have Geno?
Right around 12. He's one of the last guys that if you're waiting on quarterbacks, it's like he, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, that sort of range of quarterback. Yeah, you're right. There's going to be some natural regression, especially with that red zone stat you cited there. That is, without a doubt, there's some luck baked into that stat. I mean, he's obviously he was a very skilled player, but things don't always work out that way. Fumbles happen, blown coverages happen, drops happen, and obviously that didn't happen last year, but they usually do.
So what do you talking about rumors and things that are being said in the preseason? ESPN's reporting. Stephen A. Smith says that Stephon Diggs wants out of Buffalo, and we don't know if that's chatter or whether it's true. If it is true, how does that impact somebody like Josh Allen and where you select him amongst quarterbacks?
I got news flash. He's not going anywhere.
Right. But he's unhappy.
Wide receivers often seem like they have their diva moments, right? And Diggs is no different on that. I mean, he was upset way back in mini camp and training camp. I don't know if it got fully resolved. I don't know if it has to be. I think when push comes to shove, he's still going to be an elite route runner. He's not going anywhere this year, unless I would say the caveat is if the Bills season somehow goes sideways, then you might see them make the look a change. But no, there's no way they can get a like receiver back, and they're in it to win it this year. So he's not going anywhere.
All right, got to leave it there. Jeff, thanks for the advice today. I appreciate it. We'll talk again next week at the same time.
Anytime. Thanks, Dave.
This is Hotline Weekend. Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin.
All right, Coop, what do you think? Let's go ahead and play some Pick One. Let's do this. Time for Pick One. Rules are kind of explained in the title, and pick one for each topic. 2 choices are given, and you must select one of them. Hence, you must pick one. Coop and I have 5 sets of pick one topics. We have not seen each other's pick one selections. There are no correct answers. There are simply opinions. Honest responses are likely to result in hurt feelings that could jeopardize our friendship and working relationship, but we're willing to risk all that for the sake of higher ratings. Coop, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but we got our first glimpse at what Frasier, the revival of Frasier looks like after 19 years away.
Okay.
So Kelsey Grammer is back. It's going to be on Paramount Plus. The first show will be Thursday, October the 12th. CBS is also going to give the show a broadcast sample airing with back-to-back episodes on Tuesday, October 17th. Now, we know Frasier from Cheers. That's where we first met Kelsey Grammer. So, better Cheers character, Norm or Cliff?
Oh, man, the two interchangeable guys.
Cliff Clavin or Norm Peterson? Better Cheers character, Norm or Cliff? Please pick one.
Norm got a spinoff, Cliff did not.
True dat.
So I like both of them. They both kind of occupied the same space. They were buddies. They sat at the same end of the bar. When they had plot lines, they often intersected with each other during the show. But Norm got his own spinoff, and Cliff did not. So I'm going to have to go with Norm.
And when you walked into a bar, what did you say?
Norm!
Norm. You said Norm. You didn't say Cliff.
You didn't say Cliff. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
All right, classic rock. You know there's got to be a classic rock here.
Always.
So the Rolling Stones might be teasing a new album.
Ooh.
Might be teasing a new album.
I heard about this.
So there's an ad that ran in England in the Hackney Gazette for a company called the Hackney Diamonds, teasing a Rolling Stone song titles. Their establishment date in the ad is 1962, same date the Stones came out.
All right.
And there's a big note in the front that says, "Our friendly team promises you satisfaction. When you say, 'Give me shelter,' we'll fix your shattered windows."
Whoa.
Okay. So it looks like the Stones' new album will be coming sometime in the month of September. So that leads me to the topic number 2 for you. More exciting for you. New Stones album, new McCartney album. Stones album, McCartney album. Please pick one.
When's the last time the Stones came out with a new album?
Man, it's been a while. This would be the first one after Charlie Watts. They did Blue and Lonesome, where they basically did all those blues covers, but that wasn't really what you would call like a Stones album.
Yeah, McCartney comes out with like an album every other year or something like that.
Pretty much.
I mean, he's been prolific, and frankly, in the early 2000s, he came out with a series of albums that to me was his best series of albums that he had. I can't remember all the names of the albums now. It was The Memory Almost Full, I can't remember all of them, but he had a series of 3 albums that were just outstanding, maybe his best 3 as a solo artist. That being said, I'm kind of interested because it seems like a lot of the old rockers, especially the ones that don't put out a lot of music, are finding something digging deep these days. Like they're coming out with one last great album of some kind. I'd like to see if the Stones has that in them. I know what McCartney does. Some of them's been great. I don't expect anything great from him, frankly, at this point in his career. I think he's done too much. The Stones, maybe not so much. I'm really interested in that, so I'm going to go with the Stones here.
By the way, we know that one of these Stones' new tracks is going to feature McCartney.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, he played on one of these tracks.
But however, did you know that McCartney and Ringo are getting together for an album later this year, too?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's actually going to be a sort of Beatles reunion.
So, obviously, they sense there's still money out there, so they got to get it all.
McCartney is never going to turn down cash.
Yeah, they're going to get it all. All right, let's talk a little bit about Taco Bell.
I like that.
You have stressed your love for Taco Bell in the past. Now there's a story out there that Taco Bell wants to go 100% digital. No cash. No cash at Taco Bell. At least that's what they're looking at. That's not totally a new idea, but it would be kind of a shock to the system to pull up to the drive-thru window and, you'd have to pay with a credit card. All right, so at Taco Bell, all cash, no cash. What do you prefer at Taco Bell? All cash, no cash. Please pick one.
I can't remember the last time I used cash at a or even a credit card at a fast food place anyway. It's all tied to the app. So all they're saying is you're just going to use the app.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. So yeah, I'll go with no cash.
All right. How about this story? This story got broken for Major League Baseball by The Athletic. It looked like right at the deadline, we knew that the Mets were dumping their high-priced pitchers. They got rid of Verlander. They got rid of Max Scherzer. they were also talking to a couple of teams about the polar bear.
Oh, man.
They were talking about trading the polar bear. Apparently, the Brewers were involved, a couple of other teams. But now, he did not get traded. He remains a member of the New York Mets. So let me ask you this. Over the next 5 years, who would you rather have? The polar bear, Pete Alonso, or Freddie Freeman? Alonso or Freeman for the next 5 years? Please pick one.
How old's Alonso now?
Man, that's a great question. I'm guessing Pete Alonso's probably, I'm going to say 29. Let me get that. I'll have
28.
That. 28, okay.
And how old's Freeman?
Freeman, I think, is over 30. Freddie Freeman. Let's see. I got it right here.
Yeah.
Freddie Freeman's 33.
The logical answer would be to go with the younger guy here, but I think Freddie Freeman's skill set, 38 as opposed to 20, or as opposed to 33, right? So, 33, Alonso should still be pretty good. But people are playing older. Man, I just got to think that what we've seen in baseball is that a skill set like Freddie Freeman's, that even when the power diminishes, you don't lose your batting eye, you don't lose the plate discipline, you don't necessarily miss the ability to hit some of. I got to think that his talent set's going to translate post-peak better than Alonso's, whereas power hitters generally, when they fall off the cliff, they fall off the cliff. So I think I'm going to go with Freeman, although he's a little older.
One thing about Freeman, if he stays in L.A., he's going to be in a great lineup.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't know what's going to happen with Alonso.
Yeah, that's for sure. And Freeman is substantially a better overall player right now. And I just think that Alonso would have a lot to catch up on to even get to the point where Freddie Freeman is right now. I just don't think he could do it.
By the way, quick sidebar. How crazy is it going to be when Mookie Betts and the Dodgers come into Fenway this weekend?
That's going to be crazy.
That's going to be Mookie's first time back in there after he left.
Yeah.
All right, finally, we did a segment in the 3 o'clock hour about fantasy football. I've got a draft tomorrow night. Our draft for listeners is a week from today at 4 o'clock. You and I are both in a 20-team listener league. Jared's in it as well. So more pride in winning a championship. More pride in winning a championship in fantasy football or in fantasy baseball. More pride to win. Fantasy football, fantasy baseball.
Baseball, because it takes a season of management with daily games. Football is won at the draft. I mean, basically, if you don't have any major injuries and you draft well in football, it's only 18 games. I mean, you're pretty much, you know that you're going to be. You at least know what third of the league you're going to be in, the top third, middle third, or bottom third. I mean, by draft, you pretty much know that. Baseball is a long season, man. Last year when I won, the first the first third of the season, I was in the last half of the league, ended up winning the league eventually. And that was all from making moves it's a daily game. So it's all about streaming the right players and making the right moves and stuff like that. It takes a much more commitment to me to win baseball than it does at football.
Fantasy football, at the end of the draft, if you're cooked.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Exactly. Baseball, you're like, hey, let me work the wire a little bit. I bet I can find some guys.
All right, what do you got for me?
All right, let's start with number 1 here. Okay. You like movies.
Yeah.
And I know you like buddy movies.
Right.
So let's talk about buddy movies just a little bit. Better buddy movie, Midnight Run or Blues Brothers?
Okay, first of all, Midnight Run is fantastic. Okay, it's the first time we've seen De Niro in that type of role.
It's one of your favorite. You talk about this movie a lot.
I love Midnight Run.
You also talk about Blues Brothers a lot.
But the Blues Brothers is the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Okay, there is no downtime in the Blues Brothers. The whole thing is just fantastic. Every scene is fantastic.
Nice.
The answer has to be the Blues Brothers, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay. I wondered where you would go there because I knew you liked both movies. Okay, now here's a question of where would you most trust your life? With which of these missions would you most trust your life? Would you most trust your life traveling to the bottom of the ocean on a billionaire deep water mission or on a Russian moon module? Which of these would you consider your livelihood in better hands? Russians to the moon or billionaires to the bottom of the sea?
Man, you gotta roll with the odds here, right? You gotta roll with the odds. I mean, a lunar mission is just a crapshoot, right? Yeah. Especially with the Russians. There were people who successfully went to the bottom with those billionaires.
That's true. There's a lot of people who's gone to the moon, but maybe not Russia.
Yeah. I'm going to roll with the billionaires going to the Titanic. I think my odds are better than trying to roll with the Russians to find water on an odd part of the moon.
I saw a video the other day that's the most unfortunate scenario on what may have happened with that sub. Man, it's scary. Like how long that they were like free fall, may have been conscious about it.
Oh, dang.
It's kind of scary.
Oh, dang.
All right. Anyway, okay. So here we go. I read a story earlier today where waste coffee grounds, scientists have come up with these eggheads have come up with the idea that you can make concrete 30% stronger by using waste coffee grounds instead of sand in some concrete builds.
Okay.
And that's useful. And that got me to thinking, man, I love the smell of coffee. And what if you're in like concrete and it just smelled sort of like coffee all the time, right? That'd be kind of awesome. So then I thought, well, would it be? Because I don't like not being able to choose to smell something. You know, like if it's there all the time, maybe it wouldn't be great, even if it was coffee. So if you were surrounded with an omnipresent odor, would you prefer for it to be coffee or bacon?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think coffee's the answer.
Food's tough.
It is tough. Yeah. I mean, is there anything worse than when you get back into your car and you're still smelling that McDonald's bag from like 2 days ago?
Right.
Yeah.
Or your house smells like bacon, the whole morning after you make it.
Oh, but I like that.
Yeah,
because I consume the bacon.
But if you still smelled it at night, you may not love it as much.
Yeah, you know what? Our house will smell like salmon after I fry it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I like that. Yeah, I like that. But coffee's the answer.
Coffee's the answer. Okay, here we are with our 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon using hotline guests. This time, our hotline guest is Larry Gross from Mountain Stage.
Okay.
Larry Gross from Mountain Stage was with Megan Mullally. With the group that she brought into town a couple of years ago. Megan Mullally starred in Will and Grace with Eric McCormick. Eric McCormick appeared in The Andromeda Strain in 2008 in the miniseries with Ricky Schroeder. Ricky Schroeder was in Crimson Tide with Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington starred in The Bone Collector with Queen Latifah. Queen Latifah was in Beauty Shop with Kevin Bacon. So pick the best of these 3 movies in our progression of Larry Gross to Kevin Bacon. It's going to be Crimson Tide, Bone Collector, or Beauty Shop.
This is easy. Crimson Tide.
Okay.
Crimson Tide is a very, very good movie. It's a very tight movie.
Bone Collector's pretty good, too.
But it is. There's a lot of good tension, though.
Crimson Tide is very good. It's an underrated submarine film as well. Yeah. There's a lot of those that get a lot of play, and Crimson Tide's very good.
I think we got to wrap it here.
Okay, we'll wrap it.
Let's wrap it here. That's buy or sell for this week. It's pick one. It's pick one. I can't even get my things right.
Whatever.
Metro News Hotline, weekdays from 3 until 6. Syndicated over the air and online at wvmetronews.com.
All right, let's get Abrar Al-Heeti in here to talk about the biggest stories in tech over the last 7 days. Abrar, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
So where did you go on vacation this summer? What was your summer vacation like?
My summer vacation mostly consisted of nothing too big, really just LA, going home, visiting family, and little trips around California too. There's plenty to do on weekends, which is nice.
Well, there you go. How did you handle the rain earlier this week?
Thankfully I'm in Northern California and we were fine. Southern California, it's funny. I feel like there's 2 sides of the story. I go on TikTok and people are like joking about how they're still going to Starbucks, and then you see the news and it's like devastation. So it's interesting to see the 2 sides, but nothing on TikTok is serious ever.
That's true. All right. Facebook, $725 million privacy settlement. How do we get our cash? How do we do it?
You have a couple days left. You have until Friday to claim your stake here. So this is something that you can file online. We actually have a link on our website that can lead you to the URL. And it's a really simple form that you fill out. You can also send a printed form if you prefer that. Just make sure it's postmarked by this Friday as well. And if you are somebody who lived in the US and used Facebook anytime between May 24th, 2007 and December 22nd, 2022, then you are eligible. That is a very big window there. So it's highly likely that you qualify for this.
How much do you get paid? How much do you get?
That's the big question. So it depends on two things. It depends on how long you had your Facebook account. So did you deactivate it? Were you active that entire 16-year window? And then the other big thing here is how many valid claims are submitted. If there's a lot of people who submit claims, then everybody's share is going to be a little bit smaller.
You know what? I love this window. 2007 to the end of 2022. That's basically, let me check, everyone.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's why I'm kind of like, maybe let's temper our expectations for how much of a payout we'll be getting, because that's so many people. But hey, some money is better than no money.
Yeah, you know what? If it's free, it's for me. By the way, if you follow me on X/Twitter, I will retweet this link from CNET out at the end of this segment, so you'll have it. And it includes the link on where to get paid. All right, let's talk a little bit about Meta Threads. Do you remember when Meta Threads rolled out? It was like, hey, man, this is the next big thing. This is the thing that's going to knock Twitter into the dirt. It really hasn't worked out quite that way, at least not yet.
It hasn't. It was a big splash when it first launched. I remember that day where everybody was signing up. That first week, everybody was signing up. It seemed like we were getting so many followers. My notifications were blowing up. Now I'm lucky if I get a notification in a week, honestly, at this point, because I feel like it's been a slow process for people who don't already have one to make an account on Threads. And there are a lot of features that are missing there. I think one of the things that will really elevate it is once we get a trending topics feature, because that's what I love on Twitter. It's how I figure out what's going on in the world. I see that sidebar with what's trending. We don't have that on Threads yet. So once that happens, maybe that'll change. And then the big thing that's now happened is there's finally a web-supported version of Threads. And that's going to be a big deal, because I don't know if you're like me and you're at work and you kind of just want to distract yourself a little bit. You might open up Twitter/X, and now you can do that with Threads too.
I just kind of wonder if Meta didn't really think this through, that maybe some of these things should have been there from the jump, including being able to access this on your desktop. I mean, they had like a giant advantage, right? Everybody who had a Facebook account, everybody who was on Instagram had the ability to get Threads, and they had momentum, but now it's gone. I mean, have they missed their moment?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because I was thinking about this too. And while I was reading about this, I was like, it's crazy to me that it's only been less than 2 months since this launched, but it feels like such a long time in the world of tech, because time moves faster, it feels like, and 2 months feels like a lifetime. And I do think it would have been very beneficial, because not only did everybody have access to a Facebook account or an Instagram account and therefore easy access to Threads, but everyone's fed up with Twitter. Everyone's fed up with Elon Musk. And it's just one thing after another. And so this really is the prime time to kind of solidify this platform so that people don't, like, I'm still going on Twitter and I didn't think I would. And if Threads had more of what I needed, then I wouldn't even bother.
I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. Is there any chance that X/Twitter is kind of getting their act together?
I know it's as cocky as Elon Musk is, there's a little bit of validity to how cocky he is, just because we're still on there, right? Like, we haven't fled. Some people have, but for the vast majority of us, we're still using Twitter, and even with the name change to X, we're still there. And I don't know what it is about it. It's even with the name change, to think that we're still kind of logging on, it blows my mind.
So I went ahead and got X Pro, which is the old TweetDeck. I was a little unhappy when I first had to pay for it, but now it's been a couple of weeks and I don't even think about it. And it just seems like we're back to where we were starting.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be really happy to hear that.
I'm sure. But you know what? There's going to have to be some sort of secret sauce with Threads to make this thing gather momentum. And I'm not sure what it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think it's going to be all these incremental updates, but I hope they don't take long. I hope it doesn't take months for every update to roll out. I think this needs to be very quick, a rapid fire situation.
Coop, when was the last time you were on Threads?
I don't know, sometime last week maybe, or something like that. More recent than I was on Twitter on my account.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. So this is important to you that Threads is going to be on the desktop and web-based?
No, I don't use it either, really. I don't use any micro blogging platform anymore. I pretty much stopped all of them.
All right. Let's see. Oh, there was one other thing. Oh, tell me about this. The robo-taxis. The robo-taxis in San Francisco. Have you ever seen one in action?
I have, and I've been in one.
Okay.
And I have to say, it's a very cool experience. And I was in a Waymo car, which felt very safe. I'm yet to try the Cruise ones, which I'm really excited about someday trying as well. Those are owned by GM. But there's been a lot of ups and downs because on the one hand, it's great to have a fully autonomous car where you can get their version of an Uber, but not have to think about who the driver is or, have a conversation if you don't want to, which is me most of the time. But there have been some issues. There have been some collisions lately. And so the California DMV has basically asked Cruise to reduce its fleet of robo-taxis by 50% until it finishes an investigation into why these collisions have been happening.
Let me ask you this. When you are in a robo-taxi, how long does it take before the sensation of there's not a human being driving the car go away? How long does that take?
I repeat and remind myself that there wasn't anybody there. So it takes a couple minutes, but you forget until you look, and then you're like, oh my God, it's hitting me, and then you forget, and then you look over and over again.
So the key here, they have to have access to the web, right? I mean, is that how this thing works?
Yeah, they have these very intense kind of sensors that are equipped on the outside of these cars, and the sensors, before they allow people inside, they did a lot of testing to make sure that they're navigating the roads correctly and they're not running into pedestrians and they know where to go. But these sensors and cameras are constantly monitoring the situation, and yeah, they follow, like Waymo is going to follow Google Maps to figure out where to go. All
right, so when you get in a robo-taxi, I mean, do you order it and it comes to a location, or do you go to a certain location, and what happens? You don't tip, obviously. I mean, how does the ride end? Take me through the ride. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have the app on your phone, just like you would Uber or Lyft, and you hail the car, and it has a specific pickup point where you are. You don't have to try to get there. It'll be close to where you already are.
Okay.
And it'll pull up to a curb, and you'll get into that vehicle, and it knows where you want to go because you identified that on the app. And once you're ready, there's a touch screen in the car, you hit go and you start driving, and then it has a drop off point for you, also usually on a curb, and drops you off, and then it goes on its way.
That's so funny. I mean, normally when you're in a cab or an Uber, you're looking at the driver and you're looking at the traffic around you and you're thinking, hey, get around this guy, or this guy's going too fast. I'm guessing that's not part of this experience.
It's not. You can't really dictate anything apart from there is a button on the car, which makes me feel better, but you can ask the car to pull over, which is good. So if you need help, and then you can also dial for assistance. So immediately if you dial for assistance, somebody from a call center will immediately dial in. They have cameras that they can see, they can hear, and know exactly what's going on. But you're basically in a car that's going to follow all the rules, right? They're going to drive the speed limit. They're going to have that turn signal on. So there's a layer of safety there, but it's going to be interesting to see how human drivers who may not want to drive the speed limit interact with a car like that.
So, for example, when you order the robo-taxi with your phone, they have your information. So you have an account. So there's not there's no ride and dash available.
Right, exactly. They have your information, and actually it's kind of cute because on the Waymo car, it'll have on the outside of the car, it'll have your name on it. So that's your car. That's for you.
That's fantastic. We may have to talk about this a little bit more. Hey,
yeah, I'd be happy to.
Abrar, thanks for coming on the show as always with the latest tech news. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday at 4:00.
This is Hotline Weekend. Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin.
Oh, you know what? I love it when I get a couple of minutes to spend with Germain Lussier from Gizmodo.com talking about whatever he's writing about. And he's got so much really good content at the site over the last couple of days. Germain, how you doing?
Very well, thank you.
You know what? One of the things I really liked was your article that you posted yesterday about the way you learned that Ben Affleck was Batman 10 years ago. I thought this was really, really interesting. It kind of flashes back to the days when we didn't get all of our entertainment news immediately via Twitter or Facebook on our phone. So you tell the story. How did you find out that Ben Affleck was Batman?
Yeah, the long story short is that I was at the movies. It was actually for the Edgar Wright movie of The World's End. And it was a triple feature of all those movies, the Cornetto trilogy, opening night, packed theater. And at one point, it just got silent for 2 seconds. Maybe the lights are starting to go down or something. And somebody screamed, "Ben Affleck is Batman." and everybody kind of goes like, "What?" And then everybody started booing. and it was very funny and very unforgettable. Yeah, that's one of those things. Normally, I would have been all over, but I was at the movie, so I missed it, and that's how I found out.
So the person who said Ben Affleck was Batman, the news about this had actually leaked out a little bit earlier in the day, but you missed it somehow.
Yeah. Or maybe I did know about it, but I don't remember that part, but I remember him screaming that. Where were you in relation to the person who said that? Was that like a couple of rows in front of you, or from another part of the theater? What was the story on that? So we were in the Hollywood ArcLight Cinerama Dome, so it's a huge theater, and I was kind of like front left, and I feel like the voice came from heaven, so I think it was probably like back center where that guy was. I was definitely way in front of him.
What do you think when people started booing in the theater when they heard that Ben Affleck was Batman? Was a natural reaction or kind of a joke reaction? How do you look back on that now?
Both, I think. I think at that time Affleck had done great things, but I think when you think of Batman, it's really even the best Batman. I mean, it's famously Michael Keaton. Everybody hated him when he was cast.
Right.
I think it's really hard to picture anybody as Batman. So I think the first time you hear anybody as Batman, your reaction is that stinks. And I think Ben Affleck is, he's such a, especially 10, 15 years ago, way more celebrity driven. His first thing with J-Lo and everything. So I think maybe you thought, this Us Weekly guy was going to be Batman, and it didn't quite work out. Now, you look back at it, and now he's a great director, and he's a great actor. So I think people probably would think of it more kindly today.
I really, really like this piece because, and you lay it out later about how Ben Affleck's career as Batman has kind of been star-crossed. But you know what? I kind of got a good sentimental feeling about Ben Affleck as Batman now. If he turned up as Batman in a film like 4 or 5 years from now as a surprise, I think I would enjoy that.
Yeah, and he's in The Flash, which if it comes on Max on Friday, and he said that was the most fun he ever had playing the role. He said he finally, after like 10 years, got it. He got that. It was a little more irreverent. And you kind of get that in his performance in there. So, yeah, it's sad, but it's one of those fun little look backs.
One of the other things that you wrote about yesterday, apparently there is additional bonus footage of Barbie. So what do we know about that, and how can you see it?
Yeah, so as of today or yesterday, Barbie became the #1 highest-grossing movie domestically of the year. And to celebrate in about a month, so September 22nd, probably about when they think it's going to start falling off considerably box office-wise, it's getting a 1-week IMAX re-release. It couldn't obviously do IMAX when it came out because of Oppenheimer, and since then Blue Beetle, a couple other things. It's going to get a 1-week IMAX re-release, and at the end of the movie, tacked on after the credits, will be some kind of bonus features, whether that's deleted scenes or gag reels, who knows. But, it's the same old movie with a little bit extra and an IMAX.
Hey, you didn't write about it, but I did want to get your take on it. Were you surprised at the lackluster business for Blue Beetle?
A little bit, because it's great. I saw it. I missed the press screenings. I went to see it over the weekend, last weekend, and it is really, really great. It's really funny and really heartfelt and really different superhero origin. I was surprised that it did so poorly, but I think it also, if you look at it logically, it's a character most people don't know about. Xolo Maridueña, people might know him from Cobra Kai, but he's not somebody you're going to pay $15 to see. And I think maybe the marketing just didn't quite give you that big DC feel, but it's definitely one of the best DC movies in recent memory. And I think once it gets like streaming, people will be like, "Oh my God, that movie's so good!" But I was definitely surprised because of just how good it is. I thought the buzz would be a little better.
Just to follow up on that same theme, we're talking about Blue Beetle. You've got a piece that got published yesterday about Todd McFarlane talking about superhero fatigue. What's his take on it?
Yeah, Todd, who's the creator of Spawn, legendary comic book writer, he basically thinks that it's BS. Basically, he says to him, superhero movies are just action movies. And action movies, have a big up, and then they kind of get cheesy, and then something comes and changes the game. Like he's used the example of like the 80s, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and all those guys, Van Damme, and then it kind of went down. They started making bad movies. Then like The Matrix came out, and kind of reinvigorated it. He said so. Really, to him, he thinks it's less about fatigue and more about just quality. And he had a great analogy. He goes, like nobody ever says they play too many baseball games. There's no baseball fatigue.
Right, that's true.
It's something people love, and you just gotta You might not like it when your team is bad, but when your team is good, you're there.
You know what? You wrote also about an hour ago about Ahsoka, which has premiered on Disney Plus, the first 2 episodes. Man, I can't read your article because I haven't watched it yet. Rosario Dawson plays the lead character. How many episodes are there in this series? Because I'm probably going to watch it this week.
You watch it. It's an 8-episode series. They debuted the first 2 last night or Tuesday nights now. So that was another piece of big news. They're releasing them not at midnight anymore. They're releasing them at 9 p.m. your time, I believe. Okay. Not 3 a.m. So every Tuesday night for the next couple of weeks, you'll get Ahsoka, and it's good. It's a different kind of thing, and it really is good if you watch the animated series that it's kind of based off of. Ahsoka appeared, of course, on Boba Fett and Mandalorian, but she got her start in the animated world, and a lot of those characters kind of come back. And I've heard from people who didn't watch that stuff that they didn't quite have that connection. But if you do have that connection, I think it's really, really special. And I feel like as the series goes on, it's going to get a little bit more universal.
You know, after I watch it, I think I'm going to be more prepared to talk to you about this, obviously. But I did see the headline about whether there's a question about whether this series is a prequel.
Yeah, without spoiling too much, the last time we saw Ahsoka in this kind of timeline, well, it was the very, very end of the show Star Wars Rebels that ended in 2018. And everybody assumed that this show, based on all the clues, was going to pick up right from that. And it doesn't exactly. We get to see that scene in live action, but there's a little bit of stuff that happens before this. So while you might have thought that this show would start right at that moment, it has to build to that moment in a nice way to kind of set the table. Gotcha. All right, got to leave it there. Germain Lussier, thanks for coming on the show. And once again, I really enjoyed that piece you wrote about how you found out that Ben Affleck was Batman. That was good stuff. Thanks so much, Dave. Have a great one. All right, Germain Lussier from Gizmodo.com.
This is Hotline Weekend. Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin.
Buy or sell? We were thinking every Thursday when Amy Smith comes on the show to talk about the financial markets, why don't Coop and I do a segment where we use the same idea for sports, music, pop culture, and more? So that's what we're doing. Let's get started with buy or sell. Jarett, I'm going to not ask you to start. You know what? I'm not going to ask you to start. Curveball here. Because you have started quite a few times. I'm going to go to Ryan to start. Okay. All right. Ryan, what do you got? What's your buy or sell? Bring it in. Bring it in hot.
Dave, how often do you cry?
How often do I cry?
Yes. How many times a week?
Not often. How many times a week?
Yeah.
Not often. No.
All right. So 0 times a week?
I would say, probably 0 times a week.
All right. Well, you better start crying more because according to researchers at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore, they've just created smart contact lenses that are battery charged using tears. So it's a battery the battery is made up of biocompatible materials and has a glucose-based coating. The coating can react with sodium and water inside the battery, serving as circuitry for generating electricity. So, buy or sell, charging your electronics by crying.
Man, I love this topic so much. I'm welling up. Well, I think I'm going to have to buy that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, tears generate lubrication and gets the system going. I'm going to buy it. Coop?
I kind of, this seems like one of those next-gen techs that honestly could really be very useful because you mentioned it in contacts, smart contacts, if I'm not mistaken. So if you imagine you have a heads-up display that imprints across your contacts that maybe interacts with a larger device like your phone or something along those lines, where you could use odd direction to select things that you're seeing on the screen. This seems like stuff that will happen next-gen, and one of the questions has always been is how you want to power something like this if it ever happens. And if tears will work, that seems pretty good to me. The way these things usually work is they say we'll see development within 5 years, which usually means 20, and that seems about right to me. About 20 years down the line, we might see these. So I'm kind of in.
How about the fact that he brought this topic to the table with the topic sentence, how often do I cry?
Yeah, I like how you weren't real sure where this was going, and then it ended up being, this tech story. I kind of dig it.
Yeah, it's kind of good. Jarett, you got a thought on this?
Yeah, you know what they say.
Not really.
So it's not partying, I'll cry if I want to?
That's that too. There's probably so many songs you can relate to this topic. But in order to have a successful day, you got to laugh, you got to think, and you got to cry. So
that's true.
I will be in. I'll be in on shedding a tear.
All right. Brian, do you have any thoughts on any of our responses, or you just welled up over there?
Well, it's a good renewable energies resource because we aren't going to run out of people who are depressed.
Oh, that's probably right.
Yeah.
There you go. Coop, what do you got? What's your buy or sell?
All right, so this is a topic that we've addressed on this show many times before. When Guitar Murphy was in here, he talked about Aaron Rodgers all the time. So I'm going to use Aaron Rodgers because he's in the news a little bit again right now with being with the Jets, playing in his preseason game and stuff like that, to spawn another question. So we all know that Rodgers is a little, I'm going to call him credulous in his beliefs. He calls himself a critical thinker. However, he believes in different things like, toxic cleanses, seed oil, or avoiding seed oils, getting sick on coconut oil until you vacate your bowels, and that's going to detox you and stuff. He questions 9/11. He's like an Epstein truther that was somehow tied into the Chinese balloons or whatever. He's a real big fan of homeopathy, all kinds of pseudoscience and various other woos. He basically always appeals to the appeal to nature fallacy, which is, hey, if it's natural, it must be better for you. He dates a real life witch, Blue of Earth.
That's right.
I mean, the guy is a little weird when it comes to this stuff. I think he's an exceptionally credulous person. I think that he believes the latest thing that was told to him. However, he is also an exceptional, an elite, historic level quarterback, and there's no question about that. The guy is one of the best that's ever suited up and played the game. Maybe not have won quite as much as what you would like to see with an elite quarterback, but he's been there. He has his rings. That's what matters, or ring. That's what matters. So my question is, buy or sell? It would be worth it. It is more worth it to be an elite athlete than an elite critical thinker.
Ooh, that's a really good one.
Well, only one of those makes money. So,
well, what do you consider worth, though? I mean, it's not all about money.
That's a good point.
I'm going to agree with that. I'm going to buy that.
And would you prefer, then, to be an elite athlete over an elite critical thinker?
No, I would not.
Okay.
I would not. I would prefer to be a critical thinker.
Okay, so it's worth it. You're going to make more money being an elite athlete than being somebody that can think their way self. Well, okay.
Also, I think he's Aaron Rodgers, believe it or not, is a little starved for attention, even though he pretends like he isn't. And so I think he thinks that there's value in conspiracy theories.
It could be.
I mean, because he deals in so many of them.
Oh, yeah, all of them, basically. Yeah. How about you, Jarett?
I've been sitting here thinking about this one for now a second, but I like Rodgers. I like his personality. I like how he's been opening up ever since he kind of shifted away from Green Bay, and now he's with the Jets. And I've been following the Hard Knocks stuff. I've watched the first 2 episodes now, and they really do focus a lot on him. Of course, he's the star, and I think I'm going to buy it too, because as an athlete, I don't necessarily care as much about what you think outside of being an athlete, if that makes sense. Like with Rodgers, I think I just look at him as an athlete, and then everything else is just outside noise. I don't really. I mean, it's interesting to talk about, but I'm more interested.
I was just using him as the focal point to talk about the topic. I don't really mean to make a value judgment on Aaron Rodgers, but I hear where you're coming from.
Right? Yeah. And I think I'm going to buy that. Yeah, for sure.
The only thing that Hard Knocks is missing right now, I said this a couple of weeks ago, is Aaron Rodgers rescuing a cat from a tree.
I saw a clip of him getting mind blown by a mentalist from the most recent. Now, mentalists are like, if you get involved with Derek Brown or somebody, that guy's going to mess you up, and there's no doubt about it. And that's what made me think about it a little bit. How about you, Ryan?
Well, as far as making money goes, nature healing it's old news. Like the newest scams are like NFTs and cryptocurrency. If we're talking like cold hard numbers, nature healing and homeopathy and all that stuff, it's not going to make you as much as either good scams now or being an athlete. So I'm going to buy. That being said, I do have a mutual acquaintance with Aaron Rodgers, the psychedelic hat man. He's in my book club.
Oh,
nice.
Very well done.
All right, Jarett, what do you got? What's your buy or sell?
Okay, so mine's still in the ballpark of sports, and it's something it's kind of a basic buy or sell, and I've kind of held it off, and I'm sure this is something that's been discussed on this show with you, Dave, and with Coop, but My buy or sell has to do with attending your favorite team's games. So, and with my teams, I haven't seen as much success of late. With the Colts, the Pacers, the Reds, those are my three teams. Notre Dame for college football. I haven't seen very many championships in my lifetime. The last one was the Colts back in the 06-07 season. So, and I kind of deal with on like superstitious type things. Like I've been superstitious ever since high school with certain stuff, and so this has to do with attending your team's games. So buy or sell. Basically, would you give up going to see your favorite team play in person? And I was going to do for a decade, but I'll say for the rest of this decade, so until the end of the 2020s. Would you give up seeing your favorite team play in person if it meant they brought you at least just one championship?
In 7 years, or 6 years basically now.
Yeah.
I'd buy that. Yeah, I would buy that.
So 6 years, you're not going to go see the Steelers, the Pirates, if they brought you one chip.
I can watch them on TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in 6 years, there'll probably be some kind of VR experience anyway.
Yeah. No, to win a championship as a Pirate fan,
you've got mail.
I'm in there. Yeah, I'm buying that.
This is fairly easy for me. I've only been to one Seattle game in my life, and that's when they came to Cincinnati back in the 90s or something like that. Chances of me seeing, they could come over here, but it'll be easy for me to avoid another Seahawks game. Reds are a little more difficult. I got all the free tickets I want to see the Reds. That being said, other than our affiliate tribute games, I haven't been to a regular season game in like 4 years or something, which is pretty sad when you think about it. So if you're telling me that, I just have to extend that by a couple more years and I'll get me my first championship since 1990, frankly, I'd take it. Yeah, so I could do that.
Okay, nice.
Well, I don't really have much of a favorite team, but I am not a big fan of crowds and stadiums, mostly because I got like real sensitive hearing, so which kind of helps in this industry. But yeah, I would if I had a favorite team, I'd probably prefer watching them at home. So I'll buy.
Okay. All right. My thing is pretty quick. I'm having a problem with this concept of week 0 in college football. We've got like 7 games this week.
Notre
Dame's playing tomorrow. The Ohio Bobcats are playing. Southern Cal's playing. But it's really not a full slate of games. There's only 7 games. I mean, and if you want to make it the kickoff of the season, call it week 1. Week 0 should not be a thing. Buy or sell. Week 0 is not a thing.
It's just,
buy or sell.
It's one of these too clever things that somebody came up with. It just really is nonsensical. I mean, just call it. I mean, do you call the last week of the season when you only have Army, Navy playing and stuff like that, like week Z or something? No. It's a numbered week. Just call it week 1.
Jarett, buy or sell. Week 0 should not be a thing.
I think. I'm gonna sell it just because
Notre Dame's playing.
Just because Notre Dame's playing.
Also, week 1.
Also, it just means more college football, and it means we get to experience it sooner. And it's a unique thing.
No, you just add a number to the weeks that you have, so you just start at 1 instead of 0.
1.
Well, it just sounds like there's more college football, so I'm gonna sell it just based off of that.
Hey, there's no wrong answer, Ryan.
Well, I usually follow the rule of thumb, like. If you count years, you don't start at 0. I am not 0 years old when I'm born, even though, I guess, you're confusing me, Dave. I'll buy or sell. I don't know. End the segment.
All right, that's buy or sell.
This is Hotline Weekend.
And let's get down to the serious business of beer. Pat, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dave. Happy Beer
Hey,
Friday.
before we get into that, what CD are you driving around to? Does your car even have a CD player?
Hey, Dave, come on, man. I got an 8-track. Sorely Pride.
All right, let's get into the local beer stuff. What's going on with Weathered Ground? What's happening there?
Man, it's that time of year. Here we go. Weathered Ground has released their Marzen AJ's Fest beer. Is actually being released today. And, the Marzen is the style name for most of the beers that we see being released. It's an Oktoberfest. an interesting little note as I was kind of looking up some background on this, and I honestly I did not realize this, but Marzen is the style of the beer. It's a lager that originated in Munich, and the only beers that can quote unquote technically call themselves Oktoberfest beer are beers that were brewed actually in Munich.
Oh,
which I did not know this.
I didn't know that either.
Yep. So the Marzen from Weathered Ground is out, and it's time to kick it off, man. Here we go.
What a beautiful can.
Oh, yeah.
The art.
Always do great work.
Yeah, the art, man, is really, really great on that. Okay, we've got some news about Big Timber, too. What's happening there?
Yeah, so right in line with Weathered Ground releasing their Marzen, Big Timber is releasing their Forest Fest, which is their version of that Oktoberfest style of beer that they do for the Forest Festival up there in the Elkins area. So we've got two breweries that have already released their fall beers. So, cooler nights, football, man, it's time to go, Dave.
Yep, it's go time, no doubt about that. And the tap room at Big Timber, which is located right there on Davis Avenue in Elkins, is open now, opens at noon on Friday, and will be open there until 10 o'clock. All right, moving down the line here. Big Draft releases Foreman American. What's the lager?
So it's an American lager, which is, a very, when I say simple, it's a very simple beer in the sense of, that style rather is, it's just a very traditional base lager. So, we don't see tons and tons of these. I feel like we're always talking about IPAs and sours and things like that. But they've got some really cool cans that they've got. So Big Draft, if you happen to be down around Lewisburg, White Sulphur area, stop in there and give this thing a try because they are canning them, they say, just as fast as we can. So keep an eye out for the Foreman American Lager.
Pat, here's a text from a listener. It doesn't have a question, but I think you want to hear the story. This is Doug in Martinsburg. He says, Dave, visited Amani Brew Company again last week. Always so nice there. Had the Pilsner and the Kolsch. Took a road trip to Asheville 3 weeks ago with my wife and another couple, and we did our own beer tour, and what a place. We had a blast. Oh, yeah, the food, too. Doug, thanks for sending that in. We've talked about Asheville a bit.
Oh, yeah, Asheville's a fantastic beer city. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's keep it going here with local stuff, and let's move on now to a story about Parkersburg Brewing.
Yeah, Parkersburg, they have out right now what they're calling the Palooka Pale Ale. And Dave, we always kind of comment, about the art and so forth. Mm-hmm. And you got to go check out their Facebook page to see the art for this particular beer. It's not in cans, but still, it's still a really nice piece of art. But, they describe this as blurring the lines between a pale ale and an IPA. So it clocks in at 5.8, which is, more in line with a pale ale. But then they describe it as having a combination of citrusy hops and very floral with grapefruit. So low ABV, kind of IPA-ish pale ale here. But if you happen to be up around Parkersburg, stop in there and try the Palooka.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture right now. So the Palooka Pale Ale at Parkersburg Brewing Company, right now it's available in a 32-ounce growler on tap. But the photo has like a boxing glove hitting the Palooka's face, and one of his teeth is like flying out somewhere. Yep. That needs to get on a can sooner than later. That is good stuff. All right, let's wrap this up with Morgantown Brewing.
Yeah, so Morgantown Brewing Company, they have, this is not a quote-unquote new beer, but it's back on tap. The Dark Internet, which is it's an American porter, is the base style of this. And they, describe it as having caramel, chocolate, kind of flavors and aromas to it, based upon the types of malts that are used there. But the porter style, this is a very dark looking porter. But man, it looks really fantastic. It's got a super nice pour, in this image that they posted on their Facebook page. So if you happen to be up in Morgantown, stop in there and give the Dark Internet a try.
Yeah, you can't miss it. Morgantown Brewing Company is at 1291 University Ave, right there in Morgantown. And I've noticed tomorrow or Sunday, from 4 to 10, they have half-price draft beers in there. Not bad.
There you go.
There you go. All right, Pat, are you ready for football season or what?
Man, I am ready to go. I'm ready for our fantasy football league too, Dave.
Oh, yeah. Coop, jump on here, because I don't think there is any of the fantasy sports leagues that I'm in right now that I'm in front of Pat in anything. Pat, I think you're in front of me in NASCAR. I think you're in front of me in baseball, and I'm I'm not looking forward to you being in front of me in fantasy football very soon.
Well, man, it's a 20-team league. It's going to be difficult, but it'll be fun.
I've never done a 20-team league before. I'm really looking forward to that. Pat, what is in your hand or what will be there soon?
And I don't have anything right at the moment, but I've got, several different beers downstairs from Weathered Ground, so I'm just going to go stick my hand in and play a little beer roulette and see what I get.
That's a boy. Hey, that's a boy. How's your dad doing?
He's doing fantastic. I'm sure he's listening right now.
All right, good deal. Hey, Pat, thanks for jumping on, giving us the beer scoop. We'll do it again next Friday at 4:33.
This is Hotline Weekend. Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin. Metro News Hotline, weekdays from 3 until 6. Syndicated over the air and online at WVMetronews.com.